Hello and welcome everyone to another one of my mindful conversations, having beautiful guests sharing the same passionate message about loving yourself and really, harnessing the power you have inside of yourself to love you every day. So with me today, I have Jessica Keats. And, I found kind of, how I talk about the universe kind of has these people that come to you and you wonder, okay, let's check it out. So, we know someone mutual, and I was watching her latest podcast and listened to Jessica and her talk. It's like, oh my gosh, Jessica has this amazing message that, we have to hear. And that's why I reached out to Jessica and said, you got to be on my podcast. She has beautiful messages. And she has that intuitive energy around her, and I believe in that as well. And Jessica really helps people to start shifting in how they're seeing themselves, and it's very, very important that we start to do that. She's very intuitive. She has this wonderful book out there. She's known as Ottawa's secret weapon. So Jessica's going to go more into that. So hello, Jessica. Welcome. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Hi, Tanya. Thanks so much for having me.
So Jessica, the audience, I've made a little introduction. They're saying, okay, great, Tanya, you've made an introduction, but I want to know more about Jessica. So Jessica, can you tell our listeners or audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am known as the Ottawa's secret weapon. I'm also known as a healer and a consultant. And what I love to do is work with people who are ready to awaken. They're ready to awaken to their fullest potential. They're ready to evolve. They put their own evolution first in their life, and and they're ready for changing. And so those are my favorite people to work with, and I really look forward to helping them to advance in their careers, in their profession. I work with a lot of um, corporate professionals and entrepreneurs, and helping them advance in their business and just get what's holding them back out of the way.
Mm-hmm. And I love how you said a healer, because we many of us, whether they're small traumas, whether they're larger traumas, it can really affect us. As you know, myself I have trauma as well, from childhood into middle school, to my 20s, and that really started to strengthened me without knowing it. And when I finally started to look inside and say, okay, who is Tanya? What does she want in life? Who deserves to be a part of her life? And I found when I did that, it really created a shift and a transition, and really brought about the importance of loving yourself. And, whatever happened in the past that created perhaps a subconscious thoughts, but now, harnessing that and looking at, it's like, okay, let's create a stronger you. Let's create someone who loves yourself. So how do you go about, do you feel that same way, Jessica?
Yeah, Tanya, it's interesting that you mention how the past traumas harden you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you specifically said that word, and it is so true. I find that I definitely was hardened in a very purposeful way by my past traumas,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped me for a certain amount of time, and then it didn't. And when it didn't, it started to look like physical ailments and
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually mental ailments, right? Like not
Mm-hmm.
feeling well mentally. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was time to actually look at self. And it's interesting because for my journey, um, looking at self actually came from when I was teaching or training for yoga therapy. And it was
Mm-hmm.
asked of me by my mentor to only, when I was working with my clients, only write down what I was feeling. And
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
yes. And when I started doing that and we started to discuss what I was feeling during the sessions, it started to really wake me up and open me up to the fact that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put myself first or even on the playing field
Mm-hmm.
really in life, compared to my son or my husband or my family or my friends, right? Like it was always everyone else first.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really a huge awakening for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was part of, I can't say that in the beginning it was about going to self love, to be honest with you. It was just about recognizing that I exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's huge, right?
Yeah, it is huge. And
Yeah.
so, and then it moved its way towards self-love. I mean, even to the point now, like as a fitness instructor years ago, I used to have to do videos of myself teaching, and I would never watch them because I would be so highly critical of myself.
Yeah.
And I noticed recently in the last 6 months, when I do a video, I watch
Mhm.
it and I'm like, oh my God, she's beautiful. Who is she?
Ah,
Right? Like, so just
nice.
how it's
Yeah.
changed, but that's been about putting myself first and
Yes.
taking care of my own needs and not expecting things from other people
Yeah.
to fulfill me.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. So many of us, and particularly women, because that is, tends to be the key audience with this podcast, is we have, I'll call it fear
Mhm.
of, just acknowledging who we are and giving ourselves permission and finding that why and recognizing that. And you pointed that out so well, Jessica. And what you just said is you didn't recognize it, or you didn't allow yourself to just be who you are. And what I mean by that is you would watch those videos and then you would find all these negative things instead of the positive things. And I feel that we as women, we're wonderful at doing that,
Mhm.
versus recognizing who we are and seeing all the wonderful beautiful things about ourselves instead of tearing ourselves down, right? And the fact that when you began to see the pattern and recognize that, you kind of went, and a lot of women, when they come to the point where they allow themselves to do that, it's like, whoa, every time I see a picture of myself, or every time I look in the mirror, or every time, I'm thinking about myself, like there's nothing positive in everything I'm saying about myself. It's negative, negative, and the words I'm using are awful. And you would never say them to your family members or your best friend or your kids, but yet you're saying them to yourself. And then when you have that light bulb moment, that moment saying, whoa, you know, I need to change the way, because I need to love myself, and everyone loves myself for who I am because of these reasons. And when you create that shift, it's amazing the power. Do you find too the power was just, you didn't see it until, like you said, you wrote it down and you saw the power. And when you saw the patterns, like, okay, let's shift the mindset. And do you find that when you shifted, did you find like this lightness happen and things became more beautiful and things became more positive? And did you find maybe people even came to you or were attracted to you because of this positive power, this positive energy that was released from you?
Eventually, but I do
Yeah.
want to note that
Yeah.
because this was a huge pattern of mine to put others first and to like serve their needs or
Hmm.
to make others feel good so that they would like me. um I actually, it was a very difficult transition for me. So it
Hmm.
really felt like a breakdown of
Hmm.
self, and it
Hmm.
didn't actually feel great.
No.
It took months and probably like
Yeah.
a long time, right? Because you only notice it in layers and layers and
Yeah.
layers. And
Yeah.
so now, though, yes, like 100%, yes, definitely worth all of the seemingly drama at the time. But
Mm.
that was just me processing it, and that's how I processed things. And not everyone processes
Yeah.
them the same way. So
Yeah.
that's the great thing. Not everybody, it won't be as hard on everybody else. But
No.
that was like, it was giving up a way of life. And so when we do that, that can sometimes feel very and I wish I had somebody like myself who could have made that process easier.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm super thankful that I have done that, because people are attracted to me because I do hold a quality or a sense of self, a sense of empowerment, a sense of confidence, a sense of knowing one's words, a sense of being able to be free or present or
Mhm.
totally themselves,
Mhm.
that they would love, right? And
Mhm.
so it does attract people to me, or that they'd love to be around.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when you are around positive people, you're attracted to it, versus around negative people, you feel your energy being drained. And you're right, right? It's layers. It's layers we don't realize we have, but they're there, right? And to realize it's baby steps and it's a journey. Like I tell people, they, you know, and I'm sure this happens to you, Jessica, too, that people come up to me and they're like, "You're smiling all the time. You're happy all the time. Like there's something about you that's attracted." And it's like, I've been on like a 25-year plus journey, and it will never, never end, right? I need to, at the same time, make a point of having and truly feeling gratitude every day. And when you truly feel that gratitude every day, things that potentially could be awful really don't seem that bad anymore. And it allows you to move on and allows you to say, yeah, that happened, but you know what? It could have been worse. This is what could have happened. So seeing the lighter things. So again, it's those baby steps that happen every day, but they become a part of your natural way, I'll say.
Yes, they do. I love what you mentioned there, Tanya, about the gratitude practice and
Hmm.
how much practices like that can actually keep you focused on what
Hmm.
is going right,
Yeah.
so that the storylines or the traumas don't, the reoccurring pattern of them don't pull us into
Hmm.
a place of feeling like everything is shutting down,
Hmm.
right? Because when we get into this place of everything is shutting down,
Yeah.
it's really tough to see the exit sign. It's really tough to
My
see
gosh.
where we're off to next,
Yeah.
because it just seems like everywhere around us is like saying no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel a lot of that has to do with because we create blame on ourselves, like just so,
Mm.
you know, going back to my situation when I was bullied as a child, it's like, okay, what was I doing to make that happen? Or sexually harassed in middle school, what was I doing to make that happen? Or be in a verbally abusive relationship in my 20s, what was I doing to make that happen? But when you all of a sudden like create a change, right, it's like, okay, it was nothing that had to do with you, it's that other person. And when you finally take that blame away on yourself, it's like so, oh my gosh, there, what is the word? What is the word, right? It's just when you take that off of yourself.
I think what you're describing there is like true forgiveness of self. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
you were also there. You also existed during that time period.
Hmm.
And so, but for some people going through trauma, they may do what you did, which is
Hmm.
like blame themselves, or
Yeah.
they really blame the other person so
Right.
much so that they are
Right.
such the victim in
Hmm.
the situation. And I think when we can actually look at those situations and we can find true forgiveness for ourselves first, and then it ends up bleeding out, right, like into
Yeah.
whoever else was there. And
Yeah.
it's almost like saying, I refuse to do this pattern again. Like I
Hmm.
refuse to allow somebody to look at me this way, or to
Hmm.
treat me this way, or
Hmm.
to, right, because you
Yeah.
pick up on the signals faster and
Yeah.
you go, no, thank you, I don't
Yeah.
even want any of that energy.
Yeah, I love, yeah, like, and I love how you said, I refuse to, because saying that is so powerful, right?
Mhm.
You know, and you know what I want to, that kind of leads me into the next question is, I refuse to, or what is creating me to feel this way? And I think that a lot can do with, you know, what people are feeling right now with, I mean, COVID-19 is a part of our life, right, since the spring, and I think it's going to be a part of everyone's life for quite a while. You know, so what is you know, there's so many things we hear out there, and people try this or people try this to help them with how they're feeling, whether it's frustration, whether it's the fear, whether it's the loneliness. You know, what is something you do for yourself, Jessica, that helps you get through, I'll say, a normal day, or a normal day, or a week? And what allows you to live your life, you know, with COVID being out there? And what helps you to get beyond maybe a fear or a roadblock or an obstacle somebody else may be feeling?
Mhm. I think I have to caveat this answer with, I've done so much work at this point that
Yeah.
it's very easy for me to go to align with reality, right? So
Hmm.
if reality says we're at home, we're at home, like it,
Yeah.
and then we create reality from there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very talented and healed enough that is not an issue for me, but I recognize it is an issue for a lot of people,
Mhm.
right? And so how does one essentially stop resisting reality, because that's what's happening, right? Is that
Yeah.
we're in this resistance pattern, and we're feeling it because of fear, and we're feeling it like, what if we don't go back to the way we were? What if everything
Mhm.
changes? Like,
Yeah.
so much is coming up.
Yeah.
And so, what I like to do when so much is coming up and we don't feel like we know what the answers are, and that makes it even worse.
Yes. Not knowing, right? It's the
Yeah,
worst
it's
thing
not
people think.
knowing.
Go with the
Yeah.
flow.
Right? And and
Yeah.
and to go with the flow is you're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
let's not pretend
Yeah.
and give messages that are, like, so far away that they then put you back into this spiral, right?
Yeah.
So the easiest thing to do is to slow down,
Mm.
because the spiral of emotions moves fast.
Yeah.
And so, how can you put some sense of grounding and slowing and like an earthiness back
Mhm.
in, right?
Mhm.
And what some people will do automatically without even knowing it is that they'll eat too much, which is why we saw weight
Yeah.
gain, right? It's
Yeah.
so that they're balancing out this fast moving energy of fear and I
Mhm.
don't know and spiraling, with eating too much to try to weigh them down. And so,
Comfort. Yeah.
yeah, and so automatically the human body will do this
Mhm.
balancing act. But do you
Yeah.
want to be in that pattern of balancing, right? Where you
Because
just
that
don't,
creates something else,
yeah,
right?
because it creates
Yeah.
something else. You don't have any control at that
Yeah.
point. You're bouncing from one end to the other. And
Yeah.
this is where you get like high anxiety and then depression. And
Yeah.
like you keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
And so, what are some practices that you enjoy that can
Mm.
help you feel more connected to the earth, that can help you
Mm.
feel more grounded,
Yeah.
that can give you peace of mind? And then from that peace of mind, it's possible for you to see the next step.
Mhm.
It's possible for you to see the next place that you're going to, even if you don't know the big answers of the city or the province or the country or the world, right? Like but you have a life. And
Yeah.
so what's the next step in your life?
Mhm.
And given what you know. And
Yeah.
so I think that that is probably my best advice to give, and some advice that I would do in the beginning of this, in March, right? It was, even for me, tough to stay out of the fear zone. So the
Mhm.
fear was so high, and it was
Mhm.
so high with so many people that the
Mm.
energy was like,
My God.
even if you don't
Yeah.
even play in that playground anymore, like
Yeah.
it's still, I was like, oh, wait a second. I am making this decision very fast based on fear. Like, there's no
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
there's no intellect here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if when we can think about that, it's like there is no intellect or wisdom when we are freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right? It's so true. I love just how you said that, it's getting back to being grounded, getting back to nature, because strong believe that nature is very healing
Mhm.
and it allows us to be grounded, and it has this amazing power to just kind of, I'll say, silence you, as in finding the calm.
Yeah.
And I really feel that prior to this happening, the way society, the way the world, the way the energies were going, it couldn't continue.
Mhm.
So perhaps, and some people are so on board with me with what I'm going to say, and some people are thinking, Tanya, you're way out there, where you're like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with you? Perhaps this happened for a reason, because the way things were happening, it couldn't continue. People were nonstop. People were busy. People were getting stressed upon stress upon stress. It was not a lot of people that were just like, whoa, I need to slow down. They weren't recognizing that. There were so many signs in their own life, but they were ignoring them. They were not listening to them. And again, I feel this happen for a reason, because like, okay, the little signs nobody's listening to, well, guess what? We're going to throw it hard at everybody. So, yeah. Well, we'll.
Sometimes it does, yeah, sometimes it does happen like that, right? Like even in an individual's journey,
Mhm.
I do believe that this did happen for a reason, like a much bigger reason than we
Yeah.
think. And I
Yeah.
think it is meant to change us and
Yeah.
change our society in many ways.
Yeah.
I think that that is maybe what caused so much fear, not just the media. It was
Mm,
that people knew on some level this is really going to change
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And being in that space, I mean, it's an opportunity for us to have a lot of space to reflect,
Mhm.
a lot of space to look at what is working and what isn't working,
Mhm.
right? A lot of space to understand who we are. And we
Yeah.
saw that happen, right? Like
Mhm.
everybody who was working from home, they got to just be like outside of the
Yeah.
box of 9 to 5. And they were
Yeah.
like, well, what if I wear pants or not wear pants? Like, what if I was in my pajamas all day? What if I, like, they just started trying on a bunch of things. What if I only ate
Mhm.
2 meals a day instead of
Yeah.
3? Because why do I need to have breakfast at 9 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're trying on all sorts of different ways of
Mhm.
being, which
Mhm.
I think is lovely because we have for so long been boxed into you
Mm.
work a 9 to 5. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
This is how you get to work.
Yeah.
This is what you do before work. This
Yeah.
is what, right? And so many people were unhappy and unhealthy
Yes.
in that model. And I think that's
Mhm.
why we ended up with more entrepreneurs, right? Because
Mhm.
people were like, I just can't keep doing it. It
Mhm.
just mentally was exhausting or
Mhm.
physically exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think we see now, like, okay, what if I don't work my 7.5 or quarter hours during this time period? What if a few
Mhm.
of the hours fall here and a few of the hours fall here? And what if I work at my cottage?
Yeah.
And what if I work at another place in Ontario? Like,
Yeah.
what if, right? Like, and all of these what ifs, which can now be like, yes, okay, would never have been yes before
Yeah. I know.
because we were so held on to let's go to the office and let's
Yeah.
play the 9 to 5
Yeah.
role and
Yeah.
let's do everything the way we've done it for years
Yeah.
and keep doing it that way.
Yeah, because people thought that's the way it had to be. That's
Yeah.
the way it's supposed to be or should
Yes.
be, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen over the next timeline, I'll
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Timeline. So Jessica, I'm going to flip switches here,
Sure.
because we're slowly coming to the end of our podcast. But definitely, before I ask Jessica questions, if you're wondering how to reach her, all the information, of course, is down below here. I definitely is telling you to reach out, see who Jessica is, feel her amazing power. And, Jessica's very intuitive. I'm very intuitive. So during this whole podcast, I'm amazed we still have internet connection, but I'm feeling your power, this amazing energy off you. So, I really have to put out the message to people that definitely, you know, just talking with Jessica, when like I said, reach out to her, just talking with her, you're going to feel it. And maybe just during your conversation with her, you're going to feel a
Mm.
shift, a very positive transformation shift happen. So, Jessica, there's always 3 questions I ask every one of my guests. And this is to learn more about who Jessica is as an individual person. So we've learned about your thoughts and what you do, but now let's learn a little about more the person who's Jessica. So, we all seem to have a quote that we live by. Some of us have more than one. But what is a quote that you really follow or really love and often find yourself turning to?
So I'm not very good at those questions, right?
Yeah.
Because so I did ask this morning. I was like, what quote am I going to share, right? And I just heard like share the roomy one. And
Yeah.
so when I first started on this journey of becoming a healer, I put it across the screen of my computer. And it's the Rumi quote, "As you start to walk on the way appears."
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Oh, I
Right?
got goosebumps.
Me too. And it's so true. And I think it's perfect for how this conversation has gone so far, Tanya, is that if we believe, if we can ground ourselves and listen to our intuition, if we
Mhm.
start walking out on the way will appear.
Yeah, it's so true, right? When you
Mhm.
just say, okay, take me where I'm supposed to be, and you allow yourself to listen and open up, all of a sudden things start coming to you instead of saying, I need to know now, or what should, just, yeah, like just travel that path where you're supposed to go, and it will take you where you're supposed to be, and don't second guess that
Yes.
journey or that
Yes.
path, right?
Yes.
Because maybe it's something that you've not done before, you're not used to. That's okay. We're all on this journey, and we're to be where we are to be for a reason. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love it.
Mhm.
And throughout our conversation today, Jessica, I feel you've dropped a lot of advice, really strong, full-hearted, that came from your heart advice. But is there any other number one advice that you can share with our listeners or audience that perhaps you haven't shared today?
Yeah. I think I'd love to share, you're not wrong.
Hmm.
If you feel like you're being called towards something right now, if you feel like something has shifted for you immensely and you just you know that you're supposed to go somewhere but you don't know where it is, you're not wrong. And like you just said, second guessing ourselves,
Mm,
like that's how we create our own chaos, right? So
yeah.
stop second guessing ourselves, find the right people that will help you to know what it is that you're being called to.
Nice, nice, nice. And this I always have to say is kind of, I'll say, my favorite question. Because oftentimes we say, the one thing I'm grateful for is my family, right? I mean, oh my gosh, of course we are. But you cannot include this one in your answer. So if this was a last day you're on this earth, last day of your life today, what's the one thing you are grateful for, would be grateful for?
Fast moving water.
Ah,
Mm.
fast moving water. And do you choose that because fast moving water allows transitions to happen, allows life to happen, allows changes to happen, allows balance to happen, or how do you see that?
Yeah, and it's also been such a godsend, right? Like it can really pull a lot out of you. And so I think that that's what I'd be the most grateful for is, and it's
Yeah.
the closest thing for us humans to really identify with flow or being in
Hmm.
flow. And so it helps me to think of fast moving water when I am trying to relate to the experience of being in flow. So it does, it's
Hmm.
really, it helps us to get moving.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason why I asked you kind of to expand on that is, something I experienced and I've shared it with other people. And when they go forth and do it, they're like, oh my gosh, Tanya, you're so right. When I am around water, whether it be a river or a lake or a creek or a stream, there's something about the water, right? It's this
Mhm.
energy and this calmness at the same time. And you're around water, and it's like you just feel like this happiness and this energy, and it's, you have to experience it
Yeah.
to feel it, right? So
Yes.
that's, I thought I'm going to get you to expand that because it's powerful.
It
So,
is.
I think our two overall takeaways today as we're coming to the end is, get yourself grounded, get out in nature. If you can
Mhm.
get in water, hear your messages that are inside of you, your gut feeling. We're told, listen to your gut because it's powerful, it's there. And, you know, stop the second guessing, listen to your inner power, that inner gut, and tell yourself, I have the power, and not to have regrets,
Yeah.
and to love who you are. Any
Mhm.
last minute thoughts, Jessica?
I think you wrapped it all up,
Yeah,
Tanya. Yeah.
Great. Well, Jessica, thank you so much today for your time and being a guest on my podcast. You have this beautiful message, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to go back and listen. I'm going to go back and listen because I always, again, do not be afraid to see yourself on video. It's the
Yeah.
messages that are shared today that are very, very powerful. And again, everyone, I encourage you to take a look at Jessica, feel her power, listen to her, have time, have a chat with her. And as always, you know what my message is going to be. Be grateful every day. When you go to bed tonight, think about the best thing that happened, because no matter how awful you might think your day was, there's always something that was very positive and wonderful. And when you wake up in the morning, whether you sit down and write it down or whether you send out the thoughts, be grateful. But not only your words, truly feel the gratitude, full-heartedly acknowledge what you're truly grateful for. So this is Tanya Otterstein-Liehs, certified fitness and self-care coach, saying thank you very much for listening and tuning in to another one of my podcasts. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.